Hi, everybody. My name is Michael McMillan. I'm an SEO consultant. I specialize mostly in enterprise level SEO, I've been on worked in tourism. I worked with small businesses as well, and this is SEO Brunch. Okay, so the website today we're reviewing, and I've got multiple screens, folks. If you're wondering why I keep looking around, I'm not distracted. I'm just looking at one screen that's got my notes, and my other one's got the page on it. But what I'm sharing right now is Bob's site, TimeLineMaker Pro. And we went through the site to get an idea. So the top keyword driving traffic outside of branded terms, which luckily the branded term is TimeLineMaker Pro. The top keyword is TimeLineMaker. So it's also the brand name, which is a great opportunity. So no matter what you do, you're going to optimize for the term TimeLineMaker if you're using the branded term. Unfortunately, though, the TimeLineMaker search results, and I'm just going to run it through this. This isn't an incognito search, but just to give you an idea of what these search results look like. Your website's quite a ways down. Now we're seeing 9 here. When we go into Search Console, and if you're ever curious at where your position is with Search Console, you can go in. You can click on average position here. This is under the performance section, and you'll see your rough average position. So 9.5. So it's pretty close to what we're seeing there. We also ran it through a third-party tool called Ahrefs to see what kind of position we were getting, and we're getting 9 on here. So pretty consistently in 9th position. So bottom of first page. Not necessarily good news, but not bad news either, because all the signals to Google are there. You're on the first page. It's just not in a position that's really going to convert to a whole lot of traffic. So with that in mind, it's less of a game of trying to get more authority, which would be like backlinks and whatnot. It's more about trying to get people's attention in these search results. So with more attention on your actual search results, you're going to get a higher click-through rate. And with time, that should lead you up in the rankings. And when we were going through this, and I'll go back to the search results here, we're looking at the top here. You'll see one of them's an Adobe site. So that's going to be an uphill battle. If you don't know who Adobe is, then you probably haven't been on a computer in a while. Adobe's a pretty well-known company, and they've got a lot of authority just as brand name alone. So that's going to be a bit of a competitive space. And then the top 6 results are free or offer a free version. And we noticed with your title right now, TimeLineMaker Pro, best timeline software for business, there's no mention of the free trial, and you do have a free trial. It's a 14-day free trial, which I thought it's great. And to bring attention to that, we were recommending that, and I'll start loading these up into what we call SerpSim, something we use on a fairly regular basis. There's a handful of other tools like this. We recommend adding free trial to your title. Oop, lost my page there for a second. Bear with me for a minute. So with the tool like SerpSim, we can take the URL here. We can paste it into SerpSim, and we can get an idea of we can find out what has been defined as your title and description right now. And with that, we can start playing with it. So our first suggestion is adding free trial. And what we have found through companies that we've worked with is if you're able to put it into brackets, it really draws the eye a lot more. But you'll also notice with this title, because it's so long that we've added free trial at this point, it's truncated. We're not seeing the free trial part of that. So there's no way to there's no way to bring this to somebody's attention because it turns to that ... after business. So Bob's done a great job of using this space so far. So we wanted to, and Bob, we've talked to you as well about this. I know I had a chance to meet you in the Valley, and found out, what makes your product different is it's secure. It's not on the cloud. It's hosted locally, or it's on a network. So that makes it it's kind of a different game you're playing than people that are trying to find these cloud-based free software. So with that in mind, we wanted to highlight that in the search results, because our goal here is not to capture all the traffic, but to capture the right traffic, the traffic that's more likely to convert. So with that in mind, we reworked your title to look a little bit more like this. And Bob, I'll send you off an email in a few days when we have the video edited and whatnot, so you can review the notes on here. And it has all of everything we talk about here will be in the email as well. So, and these are our suggestions as well. If they don't fit with your brand or there's something you want to tweak, please go ahead. We just wanted to give you some broad direction just to kind of get the ball rolling. So with this in mind, we're thinking TimeLineMaker Pro, the best for sensitive data, because that's really what makes your product different than the rest of these free tools out there. And it's geared towards law enforcement, those types of people that need to have this kind of information secure. With that also in mind, we wanted to frame the reward a little bit better with the description and clean that up a little bit. Because our goal here, not clean it up, excuse me, I'm not trying to say it's unclean or anything like that. We wanted to review that meta description as well, because right now our goal is to get a little bit more insight, a little bit more click-through rate in the search results to try to improve this position. Because what actually, I should mention, when we did go through and look at your backlink portfolio, it was a lot stronger than a lot of the other pages that were ranking well. So that's really why we said, okay, we're not looking at a backlink play here. You have this great article about Cheetos, the history of Cheetos, it seems to be driving a lot of authority for you, which is great. Don't ever get rid of that. Even if it doesn't 100% align with everything, I'd say that's giving you a little boost in authority that it'd be hard to get from just writing articles about law enforcement timelines, etc. So with that in mind, we reworked your description. Kenzie and I went back and forth on this one quite a bit. So again, just a broad suggestion, but we wanted to make sure it didn't truncate. We wanted to mention that it's a full version 14-day trial as well, because it's not like you're getting in there and you're not getting all the features. You're going to get to see the whole thing. So we want that in there. We want to make sure that TimeLineMaker was in there, because even though it won't affect the, it won't influence the algorithm to rank you higher, it will bold it when somebody searches this exact phrase. And that bolding in the description in a search result is going to draw the eye a little bit more. And then as well, and that leads to a higher click-through rate. And like we said before, with a higher click-through rate with time, that leads to better position. So the description we came up with is to create, manage, and view timelines securely with the most complete TimeLineMaker software for highly sensitive, and confidential data, free full version 14-day trial. Now we left out the brand name because we've already mentioned TimeLineMaker in there as well. And it's already there in the title. There's no need to recreate it twice. And we're dealing with a limited real estate here. So we want to take the best advantage of that description as possible. So those are our first three. And the fourth one is FAQ schema. We've been seeing a lot of FAQ schema. Before I would only see this in first position. What it does, it gives you a richer search result. So once we noticed we were getting FAQ schema pretty much just by marking it up, we did that for SEO Brunch. And what you'll notice, you'll see now I'm logged into Google Search Console. So this normally wouldn't be there, but the top result for SEO Brunch, because we've marked up the questions and answers that we have on our page, we get to increase this footprint significantly. So this would be a normal search result. You're pushing everyone down. And we don't just see this in first page results or first position results as well. We've seen it mid-page. I think as low as 5, I've seen it. I don't know if anybody else out there has been playing with the FAQ schema. Then I'd love to hear if anybody's been able to get it bottom of first page, but we've seen it mid-page for sure. And that just takes up a big chunk of the first page. And there's just all this, you don't want to answer people's questions so well that they don't click through, but it's a great opportunity to just increase that footprint. And these are accordion style. I would focus on your first 3. They seem to be the ones that get pulled in the search results. You can have as many as you want. You'll get to show more. But these 3 should be really, the first 3 should be really the ones that are most related to driving people to click through. If you're wondering what questions people are asking about your product, I'm sure you know because you deal with your customers on a regular basis. I wouldn't go after questions necessarily to drive more traffic, like questions that have search volume, so much as questions that really are the questions that people ask. But if you're at a loss or you've only come up with 2 and you're looking for some direction to start, we always recommend looking at the people also ask section. So I'm just going to type in TimeLineMaker and see what comes up here. So this section down here, people also ask. So can I make a timeline on Google Docs? Not really related to your product. Where can I make a timeline? You could probably spin that one around. What is the best program to create a timeline? That seems a little kind of forced if you were going to ask that same question and push it through. How do I make an interactive timeline? This is starting to lean a little bit more towards what you could write about the actual product. These don't have to be top of page as well. They can be bottom of the page as long as they're marked up with structured data. Google will pull them in. There's a high likelihood. I shouldn't promise that. When you do find one that does make sense and you want to get a few more questions, if you open and close these a little bit, you'll notice you start getting a little bit more aligned to what this original one you were doing. How can I make a timeline for free? maybe not aligned, but just to give you a start on where to look. And when it comes to adding this structured data, I noticed your site's built with WordPress, which is great. There's lots of plugins out there that specialize in this. The specific schema we're looking at is FAQ page schema. It's all one word. And I don't have one particularly to recommend. The one that we're using is built into our template, and they just recently added it. So I wouldn't recommend this template specifically because you've got your old system up, but there's a lot of other options that out there for marking up with this type of structured data. And yeah, once your site gets crawled again, we've seen it show up pretty quickly. Definitely still not a guarantee, but we've seen a lot of this, and it's really been helping out a lot of clients. Bob, do you have any questions about what we covered? Oh, you're on mute, Bob. I'm going to unmute you. Oh, I can't. Kenzie, can you unmute Bob?
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
I can hear you perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, first I want to thank you for doing this today and taking the time to look at my website. I really like the feedback. I've been struggling with, you know, the fact that I'm competing against a lot of free timeline makers. Ours is one of the few commercial timeline makers, and it's getting pushed down in the SEO results. So your idea of that I think would help certainly get it higher up in the rankings. And I really like that. I like that feedback. This FAQ, I've seen those. I never knew how people ended up with them for their site. So you're saying I can use a tool with my WordPress and create these, and when it gets crawled by Google Next, it'll actually just create those automatically. It'll show up whenever Google decides it's appropriate to put it there. I guess that's my question: is who or how do you control where and when it shows up?
It's all, everything we do for Google is more or less a polite suggestion. It's up to them to honor it.
Yeah.
What I would recommend, I went through a few, I think there's a few FAQ ones. This one's built off blocks, which seems to be probably the most lightweight one. I would recommend going into one of these, setting it up, and then if you just type Google structured data testing tool, you'll get this guy here. So I'll run our site through here. And what it can do is just, it validates whether or not you've set it up properly.
Okay.
And so we'll run this guy through, run the URL, and you'll see it takes a few seconds here. If you're doing it on a test site as well, you can copy and paste the source just to see if the code's got it in there in the proper way. And you'll see here, yeah, web page FAQ schema, and it breaks out the question, the answer, and yeah, various aspects of it. I think we've got a handful. I think we got 5 or 6 on ours. Maybe I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So that's a good way to test it. Then as well, when you do get it set up and it's been indexed, if you want to make sure it's being, here, I'll switch over to us in here. And it's going to take me a minute to find this, of course. Oh, they used to have a schema section. They got rid of it. Oh, expect URL. So if you want to confirm in here, URL inspector, you plug in that. It should show you the structured data. Yeah. So then you'll see if it's in here, one valid item detected. So you want all green checks here if you're not getting those. So the first one is to test it when you've got it first in play. And then when you start seeing it in search results, or if you're curious of when it shows up in search results, you can check through Search Console.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's great because you can test it. There's nothing worse than finding out, a month later that it's not really working the way it should.
Yeah, totally. I hear you.
Yeah. I like your comment about Cheetos. Thank you. I've always wondered what to do with that. If you search for Cheetos timeline, we rank #1. We get a lot of traffic, but it doesn't convert. So I didn't know if it was hurting us or helping us, to be honest. And that's a question just in general. If you've got a page like that on your site that is maybe not as relevant to, not going to convert, but you do get a lot of interest, is that helping me from an SEO point of view?
Yeah, it can help boost the authority even to that page, which then transfers authority out to the rest of the other pages. I would say if it's completely offline, like this, if this was recipes on how to cook with Cheetos, that has nothing to do with timeline. So it's just too far stretched. But at this point, since it is it's a timeline built with your product about Cheetos, it makes perfect sense. And it's been shared all over the place, which is great. And you're not going to get that kind of traction off of just timeline stuff with one article. I think you could probably do it with time and a bigger content strategy, but the time to put into that it's gonna take quite a while and a lot of effort versus return. So I think that was a good approach. I don't know if he could replicate it very easily. I don't know if it was intentional or curious to hear what was the original intent of that.
The original intent was to come up with an interesting timeline and create a whole series of them, content. And it never really happened. We had some other ones too, but they never got the interest that Cheetos did. Who knew that Cheetos would be so popular search item on the web? So if I could come up with more of them, I would. And now that I hear what you're saying, you're saying this is good but that takes time, right? I mean, page authority, it does, that authority, that domain authority, and so on. That's built up over time, and we've been at this. There was a time when we ranked #1 for TimeLineMaker. There weren't any others. We were the category leader. Now everyone wants to call themselves a TimeLineMaker, right?
Yeah, if you can create more interesting timelines, I'd be curious to see them as well. But it could be an interesting content play for you, just from as long as they're kind of staying their timelines, then that aligns with what your product does. And especially if they're made with the product, you could have just a page that's like examples of timelines, and then they just become they're interesting ones as well. They can get shared outside. So cool.
Basically we had thought about whatever's really prominent in the world, around the world in the news right now. We could create a timeline of that, and that might attract a lot of attention. One last question I have about that Cheetos page. It's pretty flat. I mean, yes, there is a link to to our product and so on, but there's not a lot other. Everything's there. People scroll and they look at the timeline. What I've been thinking about is trying to cause maybe hide the visual timeline on a second page and give them a teaser, and then force them to click on it to get to that image, right? Rather than give them the image right up front, give them a teaser, force them to click, so at least there's some engagement on that page. Would that help?
I don't know. I don't know if you'd lose some, because what's being linked to right now is this page. So whatever you do to this page, it should maintain its authority. You might lose some authority with time because you're adding basically a gateway to it, but you could use it as a way. I'd be weary of it just because you might lose some links from it.
Yeah.
If you had something in front of it. Are you talking about completely removing this from the index so you'd only be able to get through from a gateway?
No. That would stay the same. Okay. But that image there, the timeline itself, put that on another page that's full screen, right? And some sort of sneak teaser or snippet of that you click on, and then go to get the full screen, full image.
That would work. And what you could also do is tuck in a bit of a CTA, because right now it's all below the fold. So there's no CTA above the fold. They get what they want without having to learn more about it, unless they wanted to read in and learn about kind of the process.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't get to you got your free trial at the top, but you don't get down to the download the free trial until you get down to here. That might work actually, Bob. It's worth a try. As long as you're not completely gatewaying it away, I'd say you'd be fine to give it an experiment. Does anybody else have any insight on that? Has experimented with this kind of work before?
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Nadia. How you doing?
Hi, good. I tried to press the space bar, but for some reason it wasn't working this time. I have a comment to make for Bob. I think I love, planning, organization, sort of tools and things like that I've invested in before. I think this is really cool. And you know what? If I were to, when I search for timelines, when I search for this sort of planning software, I don't necessarily go for the free ones first. I always assume that the free ones aren't going to be that great. I try them out and they turn out to be crappy. So what I would say is that it would be really epic if you could make it so that, first of all, you have, I don't know if you have this yet, but you have the date, like, you know how they say plan like 5 years ahead. So you plan some things for 5 years ahead. You want certain goals to be achieved 5 years ahead, but you have to truncate it down, and you have to bring it back down to the year, the month, the week, or whatever. If you could make it so that you could have an amalgam between the micro and the macro, so that you could really hone in on a date down to the very day of what you have to do, that would be epic.
Oh, I'm mute again, Bob.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, thank you, Nadia. That's great feedback. It doesn't really lend itself well to that at this point. We've had a few people suggest something like that. A lot of our users are lawyers, legal professionals, and law enforcement. So they're kind of looking at the past, and they're trying to create a timeline of who did what when, and answer that question visually. We also have a lot of people in the pharmaceutical industry, and they are using it for planning purposes, so they're looking into the future. But I see what you're saying, because you can have that macro view of things, and then you want to look at a very specific period of time.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. Really
the
cool.
only thing that I've been using for this sort of thing is Trello, which obviously doesn't lend itself very well to this sort of thing. But I just like can't find anything even that comes even close to that. So that's why I'm suggesting.
No. Oh, that's great feedback. I appreciate that. And your
Yeah.
comment about free software, that's very interesting to me, because we are definitely targeting businesses and organizations. It's not consumers. So so it's that makes me. I guess, Michael, I'd be interested in your comment on that. You're suggesting using free because we are competing against other free products just for position. Is it, how would that sort of work? How would Nadia's concern sort of factor in there?
Well, I'm not muted, am I? No. As a business owner who has to, like our stack is quite intense. I always look for a free trial. Now the other products label it like free timeline software, where yours, we're going to focus on TimeLineMaker, and then afterwards free trial. So you get a chance to try before you buy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because people are going to vet stuff. I think, Nadia, you've done this as well. You're going to vet a piece of product before you sign in, especially yours is lifetime. So you buy it for life. I would say still go with that free trial, but not make it primary, make it that secondary. That's why we have it tucked off to the end. And then we clarified in the description a little bit more details of it.
Yeah, so I see. So people, they don't think it's necessarily a free product, but there is a free is in there for the purpose of, I guess, Google and crawling and ranking, and also for just to catch people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Great. So yeah, Bob, we'll send out these notes to you in the next couple days, and there'll be a video attached as well of what we talked about, in case it's not completely clear in here. Yeah, we're going to pass things off to Oriel here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much.
No worries. And if anybody's got any more questions, thoughts, hopes, current concerns, and dreams, you can always bring them up in the chat afterwards in our question and answer period.